next morning, the golden sunlight spilled across the modern kitchen. Jungkook walked downstairs at 7:30 a.m., dressed in a casual black cashmere sweater, expecting the house to be dead silent. Instead, the rich savory aroma of freshly brewed coffee, grilled garlic mackerel, seasoned spinach, and a perfect rolled omelette filled the air. Taehyung was standing by the stove, wearing a large white apron over his faded clothes. He was moving with a quiet, graceful efficiency, setting down porcelain dishes onto the marble island. Jungkook stopped, surprised. "You cooked all this? Jungkook?" Taehyung flinched slightly at the sound of Jungkook's voice, then quickly turned around and bowed low, a full 90-degree bow of absolute submission. He pointed to the stool, silently inviting Jungkook to sit. Jungkook sat down, looking at the spectacular spread. He picked up his chopsticks and took a bite of the rolled omelette. It was perfect light, fluffy, with a subtle hint of sweetness that reminded him of high-end traditional restaurants. "This is incredible," Jungkook murmured honestly. Taehyung's eyes lit up with a tiny, fleeting spark of relief. He immediately stepped back, folding his hands over his apron, standing near the refrigerator like a servant waiting for commands. Jungkook looked at the table. There was only one setting. One bowl of rice, one set of chopsticks, one cup of coffee. Jungkook frowned, setting his chopsticks down with a loud clack. "Where is your plate?" Taehyung blinked, pointing to himself and then shaking his head, pointing toward the floor. He gestured that he would eat later, or that he didn't need to. "Taehyung," Jungkook said, his voice firming up. "Did you not hear what I said yesterday? This is our house. There are no servants here. I don't eat alone while you stand there like a servant." Jungkook stood up, walked over to Taehyung, and grabbed him gently but firmly by the upper arm. He pulled him close, guiding him over to the stool right next to his own. He forced Taehyung to sit down, then reached into the cabinet, pulled out another bowl, and filled it to the brim with steaming white rice. He shoved the bowl and a set of chopsticks into Taehyung's hands. "From now on, this is a rule in this house," Jungkook commanded, staring directly into Taehyung's wide, startled eyes. "You cook for both of us, and you eat with me. Every single meal. You do not skip meals, and you do not wait for my scraps. I don't know what kind of twisted rules you lived by in the Kim house, but let's get something straight right now. You are my husband, you live under my roof. Everything in this house, the food, the furniture, the space, belongs to you just as much as it belongs to me. Do you understand?" Taehyung stared at the mountain of warm rice in his hands. He looked at Jungkook's face. The older man's jaw was set, his dark eyes intense, but there was no cruelty in them. There was a fierce, protective discipline. "He is not heartless," Taehyung realized, a sudden, warm tear slipping down his cheek and splashing into his rice bowl. "They lied to me. He is kind." Taehyung lowered his head, a single tear slipping into his rice bowl. He began to eat, stuffing his mouth with the warm rice and mackerel, his chest tight with a silent, desperate prayer. "Please God, let this be real. Jungkook, please never leave me. Please never send me back to that dark room." Taehyung quickly wiped his face, picked up his chopsticks, and took a big mouthful of the rice. He chewed quickly, nodding eagerly to show he understood. Over the next 2 weeks, a quiet, fragile rhythm established itself within the walls of the house. Jungkook kept his word. The very next day, boxes of luxury clothing arrived: soft cashmere sweaters, perfectly fitted silk shirts, and warm coats. Jungkook personally went into the master bedroom while Taehyung was downstairs and threw the old vinyl suitcase and the frayed yellow sweater into the outdoor incinerator. "You don't wear rags in this house," Jungkook had told him, his voice firm but his actions gentle as he handed Taehyung a soft, oversized cream sweater that made the boy look like a cloud. Taehyung's trauma responses didn't disappear overnight. He still flinched when a door closed too loudly. He still hid in the pantry if he broke a glass, waiting for a blow that never came. But every time, Jungkook would find him, look at the broken glass, let out a tired sigh, and say, "It's just a plate, Taehyung. Get the broom. Stop looking at me like I'm going to execution." Jungkook's patience was being tested, not by anger but by a strange, growing protectiveness. He found himself thinking less about corporate strategies and more about how to make his silent husband feel safe. He began to leave small amounts of cash on the entryway table every morning before leaving for work, along with a hand-drawn map of the peaceful neighborhood. "Go outside," Jungkook told him one morning, pointing to the map. "Walk around the park. Buy something you like from the bakery down the street. Find some independence, Taehyung. You aren't a prisoner here." Taehyung watched Jungkook drive away, the cash clutched in his hand. He looked out at the sunny, quiet street. For the first time in his life, the door wasn't locked from the outside. The window wasn't padlocked. He was allowed to walk away, and he was allowed to return. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the Kim house was desperate and volatile. "What do you mean the court rejected the probate?" Myung screamed, slamming her fist onto the kitchen table. Kangdae rubbed his face, looking haggard. His mother's will was ironclad. "Myung, the entire fortune, the land deeds, the investment accounts, they are strictly locked in Taehyung's legal name. The bank won't release a single one, and the nursery suppliers are threatening to seize our equipment by the end of the month. We need his physical signature on the transfer papers, verified by a live witness, or we are bankrupt." Myung stood up, her face twisting into a demonic scowl. "We find that little freak. I don't care if he is married to a billionaire. He is going to sign those papers, or I will drag him back here by his hair and finish what I started." Young stepped into the study, leaning against the door frame, his eyes narrowed into a cold, calculating gaze. "Calm down, mother. We know where they are. My contacts in the real estate registry tracked down the deed of the new property Namjoon bought. It's an isolated villa on the northern hillside. No security staff, no neighbors, just Jungkook and Taehyung." Myung turned to her son, a malicious, desperate light flaring in her eyes. "He's alone there during the day, while Jungkook is at the corporate headquarters?" "Completely alone," Young confirmed, a dark, sinister smile spreading across his face. "Jungkook leaves at 7 in the morning and doesn't return until late evening. The house is isolated. It happened on a rainy Thursday afternoon." Jungkook was upstairs in his home office, intensely focused on a massive international restructuring proposal, his fingers flying across his laptop keyboard. Downstairs, Taehyung was preparing a traditional beef radish soup for lunch. Taehyung had set the heavy stone pot onto the gas stove, turning the flame up high to bring the broth to a boil. As he turned around to rinse some green onions in the sink, a sudden, sharp cramp shot through his lower back, a lingering reminder of his stepmother's brutal belt strikes from 3 weeks ago. Taehyung gasped softly, stumbling slightly, dropping the green onions onto the floor. He leaned against the counter, waiting for the sharp pain to pass. In those few moments of distraction, a splash of seasoned sesame oil that had spilled near the burner caught fire. Whoosh! A sudden, bright sheet of orange flame erupted across the stove, catching the paper towel sitting on the counter. Within seconds, a thick, black column of smoke began to roll toward the ceiling, the fire alarm triggering a loud, piercing, deafening shriek throughout the house. "Beep! Beep! Beep!" Taehyung turned around. The moment his eyes locked onto the roaring, crackling orange flames and the thick black smoke, his mind snapped completely. The kitchen vanished. He was 7 years old again, locked in the dark basement, while his stepmother burned his biological mother's old photo albums and clothes in a metal bin right outside the door, the smoke choking his lungs, the terrifying roar of the fire filling his ears while she screamed that everything beautiful in his life was turning to ash. Taehyung froze. His body went entirely rigid, his arms locking at his sides, his chest heaving as his throat closed up. He couldn't move, he couldn't run, he couldn't even breathe. He stood directly in front of the blazing stove, hyperventilating violently, his large doe eyes wide with a primal, catatonic terror, tears streaming down his face as the smoke began to fill the kitchen. Upstairs, the moment the alarm wailed, Jungkook threw his chair back, his heart leaping into his throat. "Taehyung!" Jungkook flew down the floating staircase, taking 3 steps at a time. He burst into the kitchen, his eyes immediately taking in the blazing counter and the frozen, trembling boy standing inches away from the heat. "Taehyung, get back!" Jungkook yelled out of pure, unadulterated fear for Taehyung's safety. Jungkook grabbed a heavy fire extinguisher from the pantry, ripped the pin out, and swept the chemical foam across the stove and counter. Within seconds, the flames were smothered, leaving behind a mess of white powder and dissipating grey smoke. The alarm stopped wailing, leaving behind a heavy, ringing silence. Jungkook dropped the extinguisher, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his forehead. He turned to Taehyung, his voice raw with residual panic. "What the hell were you thinking? Why didn't you move? You could have been burned alive. Why didn't you run out of the house?" The moment Jungkook yelled, Taehyung broke. The absolute fragility of his mental state shattered. He dropped to his knees right there on the kitchen floor, burying his face in his hands, his body shaking with deep, violent, agonizing sobs. He looked so small, so utterly broken, like a child waiting for the final fatal blow. Jungkook's anger evaporated instantly, replaced by a wave of profound, crushing remorse. He realized what he had done. He had yelled out of fear, but to Taehyung, it was just another abuser roaring at him. Jungkook immediately dropped to his knees on the messy floor right in front of Taehyung. Without hesitation, he reached out, pulling Taehyung's trembling, weeping body tightly into his broad chest, wrapping his strong arms around him in a fierce, unyielding embrace. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Taehyung," Jungkook whispered urgently, his voice thick with genuine warmth and emotion, his chin resting against Taehyung's soft hair. "I'm sorry," I shouted. "I wasn't angry at you. I was terrified. I was so scared something was going to happen to you. Please, don't cry. You're safe. I've got you. I promise you're safe." Jungkook held him tight, rubbing large, soothing circles into Taehyung's back, letting the boy weep out years of unvented terror against his chest. Taehyung clutched at Jungkook's cashmere sweater like a drowning man clutching a life raft, his silent tears turning into ragged, breathless gasps. For 10 minutes, they stayed like that on the floor until Taehyung's shaking slowly began to subside. Slowly, tentatively, Taehyung pulled back just a fraction. He looked up at Jungkook through his wet, swollen eyelashes. Jungkook looked back at him, his dark eyes filled with a deep, fierce tenderness and a silent reverence that made Taehyung's heart stutter. Taehyung swallowed hard, his chest rose and fell. He opened his mouth, his lips trembling, his throat working hard to unlock a door that had been rusted shut for 15 years. I was scared. The voice was tiny. It was broken, raspy, like a beautiful instrument that hadn't been played in a century, cracking under the weight of the air. But it was there. It was a sound. Jungkook's eyes widened in absolute, stunning amazement. His breath caught in his throat. He slowly pulled back, just enough to look at Taehyung's face. Taehyung's eyes were pouring tears, his lips trembling, his jaw working hard to form words that had been buried under years of violence. "Taehyung, you. I hid it." Taehyung whispered, a fresh tear cutting through the dust on his cheek, his voice trembling with a vulnerability that was raw and beautiful. "I hid my voice because I thought you would hate me because thought you would hate me, thought you would think I am a monster, a freak, like they said. I thought you would judge me, like they did. I thought if I was silent, I wouldn't be a burden." Jungkook felt a sudden, violent surge of protective rage against whoever had made this beautiful boy feel like a monster. He reached up, his large hands gently cupping Taehyung's tear-stained cheeks, forcing him to look deep into his eyes. "Listen to me, Kim Taehyung," Jungkook said, every word dripping with absolute, unyielding conviction. "You are not a freak. You are the most beautiful, pure thing that has ever walked into my miserable life. No one, and I mean no one, will ever judge you again. If anyone tries to call you a monster, they will have to go through me first. Do you hear me?" Taehyung stared at him, his broken voice letting out a soft, wet laugh. He nodded, leaning his cheek into Jungkook's warm palm. To celebrate the breakthrough, Jungkook refused to let Taehyung clean the kitchen or cook. He forced him upstairs to take a warm bath, and at 9 p.m., he drove him to a quiet, exclusive private late-night restaurant overlooking the Han River. They sat in a secluded booth, the city lights reflecting off the dark water outside. Taehyung was wearing a soft cream sweater, his face glowing, his eyes bright. Throughout the night, Taehyung spoke. It was slow, hesitant, his voice cracking occasionally. But Jungkook listened with a rapt, undivided attention that he had never given to any corporate board. He hung on to every single word, encouraging him with soft smiles and gentle nods, guiding his husband step by step out of the silence. The next morning, the atmosphere in the house had completely shifted. The invisible wall between them had vanished. Jungkook was in the kitchen, wearing grey sweatpants and a t-shirt, standing over the stove cooking a simple breakfast of eggs and toast, a complete reversal of roles. Taehyung sat on the bar stool, wrapped in one of Jungkook's oversized black hoodies, his eyes tracking Jungkook's every movement with a soft, glowing adoration. Jungkook set a plate down in front of him, leaning over to press a soft, lingering kiss to the top of Taehyung's head. I have to go to the main office for a few hours today, Tae. We have the quarterly audit. Taehyung's smile faded slightly, a lingering anxiety flickering in his eyes. Jungkook noticed. He walked over to the front door, firmly turning the deadbolt and locking the heavy security system. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a brand new, top-of-the-line smartphone, placing it in Taehyung's hands. The house is locked. No one can get in without the security code, Jungkook said, his voice calm and reassuring. This phone has my direct line as speed dial number 1. If you feel scared, if you see anyone outside, or if you just want to hear my voice, you press that button. We will stay constantly connected. I'll be back by 3. Taehyung gripped the phone, a feeling of deep safety settling into his chest. He nodded, whispering a soft, okay. An hour after Jungkook left, the quiet of the estate was broken.